How many pairs of shoes do you own? Go ahead, seriously, count them up in your head right now. 5? 10? Maybe 50? Now the real question, does your closet make you a statistical outlier? I mean, are your shoe habits mathematically abnormal compared to everyone else?
We're not just judging your fashion sense here. Finding out if you're an outlier is the absolute perfect way to unlock the core concepts of descriptive statistics. We're going to take this simple, real-world shoe survey and use it to build a complete mathematical toolkit, taking us from raw numbers to undeniable proof.
So by the end of this lecture, you're going to understand exactly how to collect raw data, construct visualizations like histograms and box plots, and, most importantly, use the actual formula to calculate if you are a true statistical outlier. No more guessing, we're going to prove it. All right, let's just dive right in. Step 1 is data collection. Imagine we go out and randomly survey 30 of your classmates, asking them that exact same question. How many shoes are in your closet? We write down the answers. Student A says 4 pairs, student B has 12, student C has 7, and so on. What we have now is a raw, unorganized data set, just a big, messy list of numbers. On its own, it doesn't tell us much, but it's the foundation for everything we're about to do. But wait, quick pause here. Think back to your foundational definitions. Is this number, the amount of shoes you own, discrete data or continuous data? It's discrete. Why? Because we count shoes in whole, indivisible numbers. You can own 7 pairs, you can own 8 pairs, but you literally can't own 7.32 pairs of shoes, right? Continuous data would be something we measure, like the exact length of your foot down to the millimeter. Getting this right matters because the type of data dictates the mathematical rules we use moving forward.
Okay, so we've got our discrete, countable data. Let's visualize it. Instead of just staring at 30 random numbers, we group these shoe counts into clean intervals, or bins, to build a histogram. Look at how the first grouping is classmates who own 1 to 5 pairs. We've got 10 people in that bucket. The middle grouping is 6 to 10 pairs, and that's our tallest column with 15 people. Then the 11 to 15 pair range has 5 people. Instantly, the chaos becomes a clear picture. We can actually see the shape and the concentration of everyone's shoe habits. Now that we can see the shape, we need to summarize that entire sprawling graph into a single concrete number that represents the center of our data. And we've got 2 main tools for this. First up is the mean, which is written as X bar. That's just the arithmetic average. Add up all the shoes, divide by our 30 students. Our second tool is the median, written with a capital M. That's the exact, literal middle value. If we physically lined up all 30 classmates from fewest shoes to most shoes, the median is the person standing dead center.
Now you might be thinking, well, why do we even need the median? Why not just grab the average and move on? Here's exactly why. Imagine one of our classmates is a massive sneakerhead. They've got 150 pairs of rare shoes. Or think of the opposite, someone who exclusively wears one single pair of beat-up sandals all year. If we use the mean, those single extreme values will artificially yank the average way up or way down. It'll make it look like the typical student owns a totally inaccurate number of shoes. Averages are just really easy to skew.
Because averages can be dragged around so easily, we can't just look at the center. We absolutely have to measure the spread. Basically, how stretched out is our data? This is where standard deviation comes in, represented by the letter S. Think of standard deviation like a statistical measuring tape. It looks at every single student, figures out exactly how far away they are from the average, and gives us a typical variance. If the standard deviation is small, it means everyone owns roughly the same amount of shoes. The data is super tightly packed. A large standard deviation, it means the shoe counts are all over the place.
But remember that sneakerhead with the 1,500 pairs? Yeah, just like the mean, the standard deviation also gets completely thrown off by extreme outliers. So we need a backup tool for measuring spread, the interquartile range, or IQR. It's like a filter. The IQR isolates the exact middle 50% of our data. It literally chops off the bottom 25% of minimalists and the top 25% of sneakerheads and just hones in on the core typical classmates. You find it simply by taking the third quartile and subtracting the first quartile. It's an incredibly stable, reliable way to measure spread.
Let's actually take those quartiles and use them to construct one of the absolute best visualizations in descriptive statistics, the box plot. To draw one, you need a 5-number summary. Step 1, find your absolute minimum and your absolute maximum values. Step 2, locate your median, that exact center point. Step 3, find quartile 1, which is just the median of the lower half of your data, and quartile 3, the median of the upper half. Lock those 5 points together, and you've got the structural frame of your box plot.
Let's pause for another quick retention check. Picture that box plot we just built. What does the actual physical shape of that box tell us about the concentration of our data? Well, if the physical box, the space between quartile 1 and quartile 3, is super narrow and squished together, it means that middle 50% of your classmates have very similar shoe counts. The data is highly concentrated. But if the box is wide and stretched all the way across the page, your core data is really dispersed. Make sense?
So here is where it all comes together. We collected the data, built histograms, calculated standard deviation, and mapped out box plots. But how does this solve our opening mystery? How do we use these tools to definitively, mathematically prove if that person with 150 pairs of shoes is an official outlier? We need a universal rule to draw the line.
Enter the magic number, 1.5. Seriously, jot this down, put a star next to it. If you only remember one single thing from today, make it this number. It is the secret key. In descriptive statistics, we don't just guess if a number is an outlier because it kind of feels too big or too small. We use 1.5 as our universal multiplier to build rigid, undeniable mathematical fences around what is normal.
Let's break down exactly how this formula works. First, you take your IQR and you multiply it by 1.5. If a student's shoe count is greater than quartile 3 plus that amount, boom, they are an upper outlier. If their count is less than quartile 1 minus that amount, they are a lower outlier. Now, some textbooks might also flag outliers by checking if a value is more than 2 or 3 standard deviations away from the mean. But honestly, the 1.5 IQR multiplier is our gold standard for box plots. If a number crosses those specific fences, it's officially an outlier. No debate.
Before we wrap up, let's take a second to look at everything we just conquered. We started with a chaotic pile of discrete survey data. We organized it into a clean histogram. We pinpointed the exact center using the mean and median, and we measured the spread using standard deviation. We built a box plot using the IQR to focus intensely on that middle 50%, and finally, we used actual formulas to lock down our outliers. You now have a complete, fully functional toolkit for descriptive statistics.
So, I'm going to leave you with a practical challenge. Go collect your own data. Survey your friends, survey your family. Find the mean, the median, and the standard deviation of their shoe collections, and then apply the formula to your own closet. Let the math decide once and for all. Are you perfectly average or